Have you discovered positively.com yet? When you create a free Positively account, you can enroll in powerful and accessible online dog training courses to help you and your dog live your best life together. Join the supportive and inclusive community dedicated to supercharging your relationship with your dog at positively.com today. That's positively.com. And now, onto the podcast. When I say my next guest changed my life, changed my outlook, changed my attitude, changed the way I did things, I mean it. I've told her before, so she knows, but her book was pivotal in the way that I was not only training dogs, but the way that I saw dogs. And I learned at the time when pack theory was big, when if your dog was misbehaving, it was trying to control the household and take over as leader of the pack. I mean, that's the way that we were taught. And it never sat right for me, but it was all that was on the table. And it was better than the stuff that was out there that was the more traditional training. So it's the way that I learned. It's the way that I was mentored. And when I read The Other End of the Leash, it was an epiphany for me because it validated a lot of how I felt, but also about how not only was the book so accessible and easy to understand and relatable, it was truth. It was finally, we didn't have to make up stupid stories about these animals, our dogs who we love so much. And it was a massive release and relief. So my next guest, you all know her, Patricia McConnell. I am so happy you are here.
I am honored to be here. I am so proud of you and your career and everything you've done. You are just a shining light. So we could just have a love fest for the entire hour, but I think we would bore people. But thank you. Thank you for those kind words. And I too started in the world with sort of dominance light.
Dominance light. Oh, I like that.
Dominant
That's
light, right?
exactly it.
And it was so groundbreaking at the time, right?
Yeah.
And we felt like, and then it was like, wait, this still isn't right. This still isn't right. And so I learned a ton writing that book, and actually writing that book had a huge influence on me too,
It did. That's
And I know
interesting that you say that, really.
yeah. But don't you feel that same way? I mean, something about the process of writing that changes. I think it's a huge part of why our brains have become so good in so many ways. It's just something about writing something down forces you to think harder about something you thought you understood. And then
Yes,
you
it
start to
does.
write it down and you go like,
Yeah.
maybe I don't really understand that.
And the
Yeah, yeah,
research that has to go behind every book that you're writing. Certainly if it's like a how-to, right?
right, yeah.
And you want to back it up. I mean, that kind of takes you down various rabbit holes, and really sometimes leads you to questioning things you've done,
Yeah,
things that you feel that you want to do. And so I want to say, well, thank you for that book, but also
yeah.
thank you for your other book. So if you don't know who Patricia McConnell is, you've been living under a rock.
No,
But
not fair, not fair.
she's a worldwide expert on canine and feline
Mhm.
training, and she speaks all over the world. She's the author of The Other End of the Leash, which is published in 13 languages, I'm sure even more now, For the Love of a Dog, and her memoir, The Education of Will. She has now written another book, but it's very different because it is a fiction book, Away to Me. What made you write a fiction book? Which is I think, quite surprising for all of us who've read all your other books, and now here's a
Yeah.
fiction book.
Yeah, it was a process, but it started with I was over 70 and sort of all my friends were retired. My husband was retired. And I was like, I wanna do something that feels semi-retired. I wanna do something that feels fun. So I thought, "What the heck," right? So I actually talked to my agent quite a while ago, and I said, I wanna write a version of All Creatures," right? All creatures great and small, but I want it to be in America. I want it to be a woman, and I want it to be a behaviorist and not a vet. And she said, "Oh, that would never sell." I actually said that, reminded her of that just recently. She said, "Did I say that? Really?" But so I sort of like, well, okay. And then I thought, I love mysteries. I've read all my life. I love to read. I love to read mysteries. And I thought, well, what the heck? Why don't I just, for fun? For fun. I'm just going to start seeing what it's like to write a mystery. And I did. And it is incredibly fun and incredibly hard and sort of awful and torturous and exciting and wonderful and so much. I knew it'd be hard, but it was so much harder than I thought. And the thing that I just realized relatively recently after it was like done, and about to come out is that I actually wrote something sort of like what I was talking about originally because the novel protagonist, Maddie McGowan, is an animal behaviorist, and she lives
Mhm.
on a farm, and she has a border collie. She competes in sheepdog trials. She lives on
Huh.
a farm in southern Wisconsin. So I sort of wrote, in a way, part of what I was originally thinking about. But I also wrote I just recently learned is called autofiction, which is it's partly about your life, but it's radically fictionalized. And I just learned that term at a writing workshop last summer. So I'm I'm working on the second book now because it is addictive. But thank you for asking. It was a process. It took a long time and a lot of people helping me.
So you said so it is, about it's set in Wisconsin. She's a behaviorist with border collies, and there's a certain sheep trial where something happens.
It's a murder mystery, and that
Yes.
happens in the first chapter. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Her
So right
Matt
away where we are
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. It declares itself as a murder mystery right away, and, Maddie McGowan, the protagonist, she she had some stuff in her background, like we all do, right? She had some stuff, and she lives, what she feels like is her best life, and she only has 2 really close friends, and one of them is her sheepdog competition mentor, coach, George, who is shot and killed in the first chapter. And so it's basically it's a hero's journey. It's the classic
Mhm.
hero's journey where every man, every woman, just somebody off the streets or off the farm, basically ends up with this huge challenge, which she can either decide to take or not because it's
Mm,
scary.
mm,
But in order to live with her values, she has to take it. And really, heroes' journeys are so classic in fiction. And I thought about it a lot. And what occurs to me is that we're all on a hero's journey. All of us have stuff, right? And I think sometimes that's
mm.
especially true in the dog world. I've never seen research. I don't know. I just know so many professional dog trainers who have stuff,
Right?
right? And there's something about that makes our relationship with animals extra special. I don't know if that's fair, but because I don't wanna say you have to have some kind of trauma in your background to love animals as much as we do.
Mm.
But I think we all are on our own hero's journey in a way, and I think that's why that kind of novel is so attractive to so many of us.
So, I love this quote, "Like all creatures great and small," which I was about James Herriot. I was huge James Herriot. All Creatures Great and
Yeah,
Small
yeah.
fan, and
Yes.
also a huge fan of the books and a huge fan of the television shows
Mm.
that we watch religiously on the BBC in the
Yes.
UK.
Yes.
But I love this because it says, like All
Mm.
Creatures Great and Small meets Agatha Christie, only with more glorious writing, more training tips, and more border collies. I could not put this novel down. And when I did, I felt blessed by the company of great characters, both human and canine, inspired to live lives of courage and hope. And that's Cy Montgomery from the he's a New York Times best-selling author of The Soul of an Octopus, What the Chicken Knows, and the
Yes.
Hummingbird Skip.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so
Mm.
but yes, that's right. I think that sums it up so beautifully. Um
Yes.
it is a
Yeah. Yeah.
journey. Like
Yeah.
everybody goes on a journey, hopefully not that kind of journey,
Right.
but
Right.
everybody
Mhm.
is going on a journey. Are you a dog trainer? Looking for pro learning opportunities that go beyond the usual? Click or call the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdta.com to discover which of our professionally focused courses are right for you. From foundational starter courses to our comprehensive Level 5 accredited pro dog trainer course, and even specialized courses in advanced topics like reactivity for professionals, VSA offers new and seasoned dog trainers unparalleled industry-leading learning experiences. Find out more and take a completely free preview course now at vsdta.com. That's vsdta.com. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And Maddie is faced with basically risking her life to save a dog. I mean, that's the bottom line
Absolutely.
is, yeah, and she does, she does. She knows, she just knows what she has to do, and she does it. And she almost does lose her life, but she doesn't. Oh, and by the way, I have to say, and I had a long discussion with my editor at Kensington, who's been a wonderful publisher, by the way. I had a long discussion with my editor who said, "You cannot tell people that no dog dies in this novel because there's drama. As you know, there is drama
Right.
about
Yep.
some dogs in the book." And I said, "Oh, but I have to."
Mhm.
She said, "No, you can't. You can't because you ruin the plot." And I said, "No, I have to because otherwise all of my friends won't read it."
No, no, we won't. I mean,
We won't.
can't deal with it.
You
Can't deal with it. That's
can't.
why I love Planet Earth and all of that. I can't watch a lot of it. I have to forward through all of those bits because it's happening. When and an animal is suffering, an animal is eaten, an animal dies, it's almost this innocent soul. It's difficult, and I'm really glad that you're able to say, "Hey, no, I
Yeah,
need to say this,"
yeah,
because of the
yeah,
jobs that a lot of my readers do. This is important for them.
yeah, yeah. And I find it psychologically fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it's not that we don't care deeply about our own species, right? We
Yeah.
do. We care deeply about humans. We deeply love, our family and our partners and are compassionate. I hope most of us are full of compassion for people all over the world, whether we've met them or not. But isn't it interesting psychology that we can read a murder mystery? So, as I said, in the first chapter, Maddie's one of her best friends is murdered or is killed. Anyway, he's shot dead at a sheepdog trial. And why is it that we can read that? Why is it that we can read about that, given as compassionate as we are about the lives of other people and not about dogs? And I'm fascinated by that. And I think
Mhm.
I wrote about this a little bit. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I wrote a little bit about this in For the Love of a Dog, about emotions and people and dogs. And I think my best answer is why this incredible sort of protectiveness that we have. And I think what I've said, Victoria, is that in a way, dogs get us coming and going. They are, we look to them to get that non-judgmental, um, approval and love that we all want from our parents, and you never really quite get because your parents have to raise you, you know?
Right?
But dogs can't talk, you know?
Mhm.
Dogs can't talk,
Mhm.
and they love us so deeply and so completely. Um, so we get this just absolutely non-judgmental love from them, which is what we want from our parents, but we also have this parental kind of response to them because they're helpless. You know, if we left the house and shut the door, they'd all die, right? They are
Mhm.
absolutely helpless. So we have this incredible, deeply rooted genetic desire to help helpless things. And you sort of combine those two things, and they really do play an amazingly special role in our lives. I just find it fascinating, and I think it deserves more attention. I would love to hear your thoughts, given all the work you've done. I would
Right.
love to hear what you think about this. Why can we read about a person dying and not a dog?
For me, it's because of that vulnerability that you speak about. And yes, that unconditional love, that
Mhm.
beautiful innocence, that truth that a dog walks around with. Dog doesn't lie.
Right.
The dog's
Right.
truthful, whether you like the behavior or not. The
Mhm.
dog is saying its truth.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and but for me, they the small child, the toddler that can't fend for him or herself,
Right. Right.
that's that as a mother
Mhm.
and still, even though she's an adult, I'm a fiercely protective mama bear.
Yes,
And I
yes,
would,
of
I would
course.
die for my child. There's no, I mean, that's
Wow,
it,
yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
my dogs are my children too, and
Mhm,
unfortunately, they've passed away now, but, um,
mm.
I had 3 elderly dogs in succession, so
No,
that was
oh,
hard,
I'm
but I'm now
sorry. Oh, I'm
dogless,
sorry.
which is sucks,
Oh,
um, but
mm.
it's that protectiveness. I
Yeah, yeah.
cannot stand to see those vulnerable beings suffering.
I think you're right. I think that is the core of I think that's the if you had to put percentages on it, I think that's the core of it, you know? They are vulnerable. They are dependent, they are 2, 3-year-old children. Although I will also say that I truly believe that dogs that the fact that they can't talk because dogs are adult mammals, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
once they're grown up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I swear that side eye that dogs give you? I swear they have doggy curse words. I swear there's an "F you"
Yes.
in the vocabulary of some dogs.
Yes.
Right? I just saw it skip. My younger border collie, I told him, "You know what? I'm gonna take 13-year-old Maggie to go move sheep from one pasture to another because she deserves to work." Excuse me. So I'm going to take 13-year-old Maggie to go move sheep from one pasture to another because one, she deserves the work. And two, even though she's almost deaf, she's really good at this particular job. So you need to stay here, Mr. Skip, Mr. Fancy Pants. And I'm going to take Maggie. And he gave me this side eye. And I swear to you, it was a canine curse word. And he's such a sweet, dear, kind dog. But there was that flash of change in his face and his
Mhm.
eyes that I know you can read in people now
Yes.
because once you learn to read dogs, you learn to read people better, right?
Yes, 100%. Oh,
Right.
the side eye is, yeah, I mean, our dogs aren't all angels.
Mhm.
They're not all just,
Right. Right.
"Oh,
And
we're
neither
just."
are 2-year-old children,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Then they also can give great side eyes and snarky comments as they grow. But no,
Right.
but I also think that shows that these animals have such personalities. They are
Mhm.
so unique, even though,
Mhm.
you've got a lot of border collies, or in fact, they're unique.
Yeah.
Everyone is unique. And sometimes
Yes.
they are gonna
Yes.
say, yeah, as a Chihuahua, my Jasmine, well, she was the
Yeah.
best at giving the side eye. Yeah, not now. Not now, human. You're go. Go away.
I think Chihuahuas might be extra good at that as a breed. It could be
Yeah,
true. It could be true.
they are.
But yeah,
Are you confused by all the conflicting dog training info flying around the internet? Tired of hearing about compromises that don't consider the dog's overall wellness? Looking for more than just how to teach dogs to do or not do something? If you feel like there must be more to dog training than the same old tired arguments about tools and methods, you're right. No matter your background, discover an inclusive community designed to go beyond traditional dog training and develop what you need to live your best life with your dog at positively.com. Accounts are completely free to set up, and you'll find countless pages, videos, and courses to level up not just your skills and knowledge, but also how you think about living your best life with your dog. Visit us now at positively.com. That's positively.com. And now, back to the podcast. I would I think this book is amazing. I'm so
thank
excited to hear
you.
that you are
Thank
writing a
you.
second one. And I also know from writing books about what a massive process it is.
It
And
is. It is. Yeah.
nonfiction and even fiction, my goodness, that's a whole other thing when you go from nonfiction to fiction.
It is.
But
It's
exciting.
real. It is very exciting, but it's so different. And the first thing that hit me anyway was like, oh, this is so liberating. Anything can happen. I could, anything. It's so liberating. There's so much freedom. And then you realize the fact that anything can happen at any moment, every sentence, every line on the page, you have to decide. There's so much you have to decide and make it real. And making things seem real is so much harder than you think. One of my
Mm,
editors at Kensington said she couldn't tell me how many times an author has written a section and Erica said, ugh, that is just not believable. I don't find that credible. I just can't. As a
yeah.
reader, I just can't believe that. And the author said, but it happened to me. It was real, right? So making fiction believable is harder
Mm,
than you think it would be. And
mm,
there's so much to decide. You have to decide voice, first person, second, you have to do voice, setting, time. You have to create characters who are believable and interesting. You have to learn to write dialogue that doesn't sound ridiculously horrible, which is hard to do.
it's
The
very hard.
hardest thing for me, though, Victoria, was plot
Mm,
because
mm.
in my books, and I know you've done the same thing, is we'll write a short, just a little scene or a story to illustrate
Yes.
a point we're making, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because we're all a species of stories, right? It helps people relate to what we're trying to convey, right? Um, so story feels so, so important, but creating an entire story with an elaborate plot, especially, I mean, there were a lot of times I was like, did I have to choose a murder mystery? I could have just written fiction. Because mysteries are even harder because
Mm,
you have to fool the reader. You have to, put all these breadcrumbs in, but not make it too obvious. You have to create a plot that's elaborate and interesting enough, but still believable. So I mean, I had a lot of help. I really, really did. I'm very, very lucky. There should be like 10 names on the cover of that book.
wow. And I
But
think a lot of books are
yeah,
like that, aren't they? A
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
books are. It does take a village, and it takes a great editor as well. And you've got to
Yes.
have that editor
Mhm.
because you have to. You're so engrossed in it. I mean, you have to have that
Yeah.
outside eye to go, "Oh, wait a second, this didn't kind of jive. This didn't
Yes, it's
flow."
like, I know what I meant. Why do you not know what I
Right,
meant?
right. And
Exactly,
sometimes you're like,
exactly.
"Huh,
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was but no, but you have that outside eye,
Right.
that's really
Yeah.
important. I think you
Yeah.
also have to have
Yeah.
that humility of being able to accept constructive criticism.
Oh, yeah, and any decent writer is really good at that. I remember when I was teaching at the University of Wisconsin, and my students in a class called The Biology and Philosophy of Human-Animal Relationships had to write a paper about, the biology and philosophy of some controversial issue, like animals in, laboratories, for example. Um, and, um and I had, 100 to 150 students, and I would pore over their papers, read them really carefully, and write all kinds of comments in them, and they would be so upset, and they would be so that some of them would be angry, and they would be upset, and I was like, "I just spent 45 minutes on your paper, and I have 100 of them,"
Yeah.
because I'm trying to help you learn to be a better writer. The comment should be, "Thank you,"
Right.
right?
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
And so that was sort of part of the learning process, that they'd be like, "Oh, okay.
Mm.
Okay, well, thank you." Anyway, so, yeah, yeah, that was, so I've always been open to criticism and editing suggestions. I mean, with this book, my editor was like, "You don't need that chapter, take it out." I was like, "Okay." Chapter that you worked and worked and worked and worked on,
Yeah, that
so
you worked to put all of that effort into,
so
and now
but, the most if I can, the most fun part of writing this book for me, and I didn't even realize it in a way until afterwards, but I n I didn't I guess I've said this already, I didn't think about it before, but I was so focused on the plot and the murder mystery and characters and the setting. It was so important to me that people
mm,
feel like they knew what it was like to walk out of the door in Southern Wisconsin,
hmm,
and to sort of, to smell it and see it and hear it and to feel like they're really there. But one of the parts that's been so satisfying to me was Maddie is an applied animal behavior. So she's the client. So part of any murder mystery, you can't have drama every single second, right? You
yeah,
have to fit it into somebody's life. So I would write about her clients. And I realized I was creating a window um, to the world of what it's like to be what most of us do, to, be a professional animal trainer, to be an animal behaviorist, to do what you do, to do what I did for years, because nobody, how would anybody know what it's like? They don't know what it's like. And so I'm sure you've run into this, especially you travel so much around the world. You must be in so many airports. But how many times has somebody come up to you and said, "Oh, you're a trainer in animal behaviorist. Oh, I've always wanted to do that."
mhm,
And you just left a consult where you were talking about, do we have to euthanize the dog for
mhm,
biting the face off, their neighbor's 5-year-old girl
mhm,
or something, right? And everybody's sobbing in your office, right? And you're gutted, and they think you're running through a field of daisies with golden retriever
yeah, of
puppies,
course,
right? Right?
yeah, yeah,
So it was really satisfying to hear from other trainers about, "Thank you for describing my life,"
mhm,
because nobody really knows what it's like, and so that was really fun. That was really
mhm.
fun, and then trying to write dogs realistically. So many books that have dogs in them that I just wanna rip my hair out of my head because I just don't find them credible.
Yeah, well, all those movies as well,
Yeah,
you know?
yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
um
sure the dog did that, sure it did.
yeah, right, absolutely, and Malamar's great for everybody, let's have
Right.
another movie with a big star with a Malamar that's gonna save the world. Then everybody's gonna go out and get one. Wow.
Exactly, right.
Well, this is I would just say, everybody go get the book, have a good read. It is wonderful, and you are going to love it. Now, you do live in Wisconsin. You do have border collies. You are a behaviorist. You have
Yeah,
helped this world so much. You have built this
mhm,
world and helped the world. and helped people like me navigate it as well. Um, but you also are, and I think we all do, when we have platforms or when we have a voice that maybe are heard by more
Mhm.
people than
Mhm.
others, we sometimes need to use that voice in very difficult circumstances.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's why I want to talk about the Ridgeland Beagles
Yeah.
with you. And
Right.
we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to go through the
Yeah.
story and how you became involved with something that really became a massive story here in the
Yeah.
United States
Yeah.
and around the
Yeah.
world. So
Yeah.
I'll be back with Patricia McConnell after this message. Are you and your dog struggling with reactivity? You're not alone. At Positively, we've created a powerful new approach that will finally provide a lasting solution for your dog's reactivity. And it's available for you and your dog right now. Go to positively.com, click Take a Course, and find Help Stop Reactivity to enroll in this game-changing online course for you and your dog today. That's positively.com. And now, back to the podcast. Okay, I'm back with the fabulous Patricia McConnell, and we're now going to talk about something that's really been really hard, the Ridglan Beagles.
Yeah.
And recently, very recently, 1,500 of these beagles from Ridgeland Farms, which is a facility that sells dogs for biomedical research. And they also do research on the farm, but they sell it to other biomedical facilities to do medical research on these dogs. Why is it beagles? Because of their cooperative, relatively docile temperament. Um, these dogs are used for this research. Anyway, numerous violations, and it gets to the point where Ridgeland Farms, who fights all of these accusations of
Mhm.
animal abuse, and they give up, not give up, I should say, sell 1,500 of the beagles to various rescue groups.
Right. Right.
And then from July the 1st, they are prohibited or have agreed not to sell dogs to other biomedical research
Right.
facilities, but there are still 500 dogs at Ridgeland Farms that can be used for their own research, even though there were numerous violations. For example, that surgeries were done on dogs that
Right.
had cherry eye and the appropriate anesthesia was not given. So, can you paint I mean, that's kind of my summary,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you become
Yeah.
very involved with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I might be able to talk about this without crying, but I might not. I should have brought tissues, but I might be, like what um and part of the reason for that is my history with Ridgeland Farms, it's hard for me to use that
Yeah, it's
word.
hard to say that word.
Yeah, it's goes way back. So I don't know exactly when, but over 20 something years ago, I was contacted by Ridgeland because they had a behavior problem. So I came in, and the first thing that happened, Victoria, is after suiting up and, putting my, shoes in bleach and like, doing what you do, to keep germs out, I walked into this facility where there were, I don't know how many, masses and masses of tiny little wire cages with wire bottoms with one beagle in it. And the only thing in the cage was those like gerbil lick feeders that you use for rodents, right?
Yep.
So that's what they had to drink water with. And there was nothing in the cage. And the cages were legal. The Animal Welfare Act, basically, the regulations of the AWA is that a dog cannot be held in a cage any smaller than I think it's 6, it might be 8 inches longer than the dog is long. 6 to 8 inches.
That's it.
So that's legal. So there were these massive numbers of dogs in these tiny little wire cages on wire bottoms, like open wire bottoms, and there was nothing there but a little lick tube, and I just stopped and I said, "W c can you not?" I said, "Do these dogs, like, when do they get out?" And they're like, "Well, females get out when they have a litter. The males get out just to breed the females, otherwise they're here all the time, and that's legal." So I'm, like, in shock walking through this place, and then we get well, and I had said, "Why won't you put something in there for them? You know, anything like a Kong or a toy or something." And they said, "Oh, well, we couldn't possibly afford that." So we keep walking to the area where they needed the help. And where they what the reason they needed help because the AWA changed its regulations. It used to be you could take a puppy from weaning and keep it in a single solitary cage until it was ready to ship, which is like, and I believe, don't publish this, but I believe it's between 5 to 7 months. Um, but the regulations changed. You had to keep the litter together until they were 5 to 7 months old. So we walked into this sort of warehouse-like building with these kennels pretty big, like maybe 6 by 6 or 7 by 7, and there were these litters of adorable beagle puppies, just adorable, right? Running around, and at least they had each other, right? So this is
Mhm.
great.
Mm.
Their problem was they couldn't catch them. They'd
Huh.
go inside, and the beagles were terrified of people. So they would, like, run around, right, and waste all this time. So I was like, "This is the easiest behavior problem in the world to solve. You just send in a staff person with a pouch of treats once a day or twice a day. They're beagles, for heaven's sakes. They're
Right.
dogs. Just walk in there with some treats and have them feed the dogs treats once a day, twice a day. You could fix this in a week." And they were like, "Oh, we couldn't possibly afford that. We could not afford the time
We could
or the
not
money.
afford the time
That
or
would cost way too much money." So I
wow.
said, I cannot work with you. But here's why I'm gonna get teary because it's really emotional for me. I left feeling I just had a hole in my heart. It just and I never forgot it. So X number of years later, this whole Ridglan issue comes up, and I was contacted a year ago. It's a really long story. I'll try to keep it short, but I was contacted by a group called Dane for Dogs
Yeah.
that has known about violations and what's clear cruelty um, at Ridgeland for 10 years. They've been trying for 10 years to get this place to shut down. They asked the AG, the Attorney General of Wisconsin, who wouldn't be involved. They finally went to court to ask that a special prosecutor um, be appointed. And they had there was a worker there who took videos. And the videos were of just, I don't want you ever to have to see them. I'll never get them out of my brain. Dogs spinning
Oh,
in just extreme stereotypies, dogs huddled in corners, immobile and tonic immobility, just frozen. There were so many clear signs of animals who were suffering greatly. So I wrote a deposition, and then eventually there was a hearing. And what eventually took forever, what eventually happened is that this agreement was made, is that Ridgeland would not be charged with 311 counts of animal abuse if they agreed to give up their seller's license. So by July 1st. So there was a massive brouhaha. There was a break-in, an attempted break-in. Eventually what happened is a deal was made with Ridgeland and several rescue groups. Um, Big Dog Ranch Rescue in Florida was one of the major players, but lots and lots of people were involved. So 1,500 dogs got out. 500 were triaged at my local humane society. I helped as much as I could. There were hundreds of volunteers helping.
mm.
The dogs would break your heart. Many of them had paw pads that were so swollen and inflamed, from living on
Oh,
these wire
terrible.
cages. Some of them wouldn't come out of their cages. I spent quite a bit of time with this wonderful filmmaker, Andrea Chamberlain, who's doing a documentary about this whole issue. So those 1,500 dogs are gradually and slowly with tremendous variation, right? Some of the younger ones are gonna come out pretty well. Some of the older breeding dogs, it's gonna be a long, hard road, right? And they'll never be the dogs that they would have been. They've been so profoundly traumatized. Um, some of them I'm learning, some of them they don't even know what kibble is. I don't know what they were fed, but they won't eat kibble. They like push it around with their nose, and people are like, "How I can't get my dog to eat anything." But so there are dogs still there. There are supposedly negotiations going on. The big picture is that my representative, the House of Representatives, Mark Pocan, yay, he's a hero.
Mm.
I contacted his office. He got involved. He's co-sponsored a bill to make it easier to shut a place like Ridglan down. The big picture, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe sooner, we have to get the Animal Welfare Act changed
Yes.
because, one, it's unethical to keep dogs like this. It's cruel and inhuman. But second of all, scientifically, it is horrible science. I mean, if you're going to argue that you need dogs to do research to test medications on our own dogs, and that's not a bad argument, right? I don't wanna give my dog something that's only been tested on rats.
Mm,
And I could talk about how rats are abused too, but I won't go down that path.
mm.
But there are places in Europe where there are laboratories that have dogs in big kennels, and they're together, and they go on walks, and they get to play. If we're gonna test medications on dogs in laboratories, they need to be good representatives of the dogs who are gonna use the medications,
Right.
and right? Neurologically, disabled and physiologically traumatized dogs are not good test models, so it's bad science as well as being cruel. So I'm sorry that was probably too long, but you can tell this is just, like, a huge issue with
No,
me.
not too long at all. I
Yeah,
it's appalling. I
right.
have seen those videos. It is absolutely heartbreaking
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see these dogs spinning, spinning, spinning,
right,
and the dogs cowering in the corner, and the other dogs desperate to get out. I've also
right.
spoken to and also seen the videos, of the dogs touching grass for the first time, and,
Yes.
we think about right? Well, like, "What is this feeling under my feet?" Yeah.
Right, right.
Um, but
Mhm, mhm.
what these I mean, I've done many puppy mill busts, and,
Good for you.
this is
Mm.
no better than a puppy mill, actually, at all. It is
It's
they live in
right,
these conditions 24/7. Yeah, the only time they get out is when they're breeding or when there's a litter, and, the conditions are terrible.
right.
it is sensory deprivation. Um, it's trauma. It is horrific. I can't understand in this day and age that a society allows this to happen.
It is shocking, and thank you for speaking out, by the way. I've seen you on Facebook, and I know you're speaking out about this, and thank you for using your voice and your platform on this. We have to come together, and I think we need to take that energy in a positive way. We need to take that energy to the federal level. You need to talk to your senators. We need to talk to our representatives. We need to get a federal level view on this. And it's starting. I think this might be our moment because you are absolutely right. I always believe if anybody off the street walked into one of these facilities, it's so dystopian. It's just horrifying. And the fact that this is still going on in 2026, when you know better, you do better. Well, we've known better for decades
Yeah.
and decades, right? So now is the time. And so for everybody listening, it's one thing to post on Facebook how awful it is, but I want you to contact people with power.
Mhm,
New
mhm.
York has a huge facility, by the way. I don't know how many dogs are there. I've heard 20,000 or more. I have no idea if that's true, but there are research labs all around the country that are using dogs like this. we need to get the laws changed because it's bad science and it's unethical. And this is going to be a ground up thing. We can change this. Nobody else will.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Yes, you can't just complain about it. You have to do
Right.
something, even if that
Right.
something is to pick up the phone and leave a message with
Right.
your representative. Just to
Exactly.
it's something because these places are truly hell on earth, and it leads people to do things that happened at Ridgeland where people tried to
Right.
get in
Right. Right.
and to save some of the dogs. And there was a break-in. There were some, I don't know
Right.
how many, like 15 that were taken. And now those people, and
Right.
especially the kind of the leader is gonna face or is facing jail time.
Yeah,
Um,
like felony 15 years. Yeah, Wayne Song
yeah,
was one of the leaders of he's a well-known, nationally known animal rights activist. And in the work that I've done with them, sort of leading up to things, I was really clear. I'm not a, I'm all about animal welfare. I'm not always on the animal rights page.
mhm,
I have great respect for people who believe that, but I do eat meat. I'm very picky about what meat I eat, but I do eat meat. But the welfare is sort of my big issue. But I did, during the second theoretical break-in, where Wayne and many other people were arrested. I promised I was there. I promised my husband. I made one promise to my husband. He said, "Please don't get arrested." He said, "Please don't do that to me because I have a multitude of medical adventures, and I have to pee a lot. I'm 77 for God's
right.
sakes. It's like I'm going to be in jail going like I'm going to pee in the corner now, and I know you let me out an hour ago,
Yeah, yeah.
so
But
I promise.
because
Go
there
go
were there were in that situation, and the
ahead.
call was kind of going out to everybody, and I started to see messages on Facebook and everything that
Yeah,
I think about. I don't know how many people turned up on a particular day in Richland Farms to try and get in there to
yeah,
try and save, but
yeah,
was it
yeah.
up to 1,000 people? I don't know what the number
I
was.
have heard that. I'll tell you, it looked like it well could have been.
Right.
It's in a very rural area. This place has been there forever,
Yeah.
and it's very well hidden. Um, and it's a very hilly rural area, and there were cars parked all over these tiny little hilly rural roads. We walked a long way to get sort of up to the hill, still on the public road where we would be arrested, sort of overlooking where people were trying to break in. It was very chaotic. It did not feel well organized. There were people running here and there and everywhere. Um, I The good thing for me, just personally, is that's where I met Andrea Chamberlain. She was, filming for her documentary.
Mm.
I did some interviews. I think people told me I was on CNN. Um, so I did some interviews about why I understand the argument of, Wayne's argument is it is not illegal to break into a car if it's 95 degrees outside and there's a dog inside that is clearly in distress. It is not illegal. It is a legal thing to do. So that is his argument. And I promised I wouldn't do it, and we finally left because the tear gas was getting so bad.
Yeah, so they
Um,
had police officers there, and they were deploying tear gas. I mean, it got
right. And
that large and it got
Oh,
that bad.
it was a thing. Yeah, it was a thing. There was a lot of press there, people from the New York Times, a lot of local press, and there were people running sort of up and down, and people would run up the hill from where they were trying to break through the fence over the moat that they illegally put cow poop in, as if that would stop people.
Yes,
That
so
would just
Ridgeland Farms put cow poop in the moat.
They dug a trench and put cow
Yes,
poop in it as if that would stop
to
anybody. I mean,
stop
frankly,
people, right.
that part was just amusing, and they've actually been cited for environmental, like $400 or something. But then there was a fence around it, and there were people trying to break into the fence. The main, sort of organizers like Wayne, they had gone up to the fence. I am told that they had gone up to the fence with their hands up and said, This is civil disobedience. We know we're gonna be arrested." And they were zip tied, and then, put behind a building and just sort of sat there. And there are a lot of reports of, the 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 2 things, if I may, that I wanna say is there were reports, and it's gotten a lot of publicity, of what clearly were I would say abusive overreactions from some law enforcement.
Mm,
There were some people who were hurt who it appears as though absolutely should not have been hurt.
mm.
Um, some of those reports are very credible, but I also want to say there were law enforcement people here and there, and I thought about this a lot, of who are absolute animal lovers, and they were in a horrible position.
Mm,
I actually talked to one of them
mm.
at the Dane County Humane Society. He's like, "My job is to enforce the law. That's my job, and breaking into a private facility is breaking the law." But he said, "But I really care about dogs," and they were just really torn. And the other quick thing, if you wouldn't mind, that I just really want to say is there has been some criticism that I've read in letters to the editor, etcetera, and I do understand it of, like, how could you spend all your energy on dogs when there's so many people suffering in so many ways around the world? And I just wanna say to that, so if somebody's concerned about this and you get that response from other people, compassion is not a zero-sum game,
Right.
right? Compassion is a matter of fact. There's actually research that compassion is something you can learn and it grows. So, being compassionate about beagles does not mean you are not compassionate about people who are suffering um, in horrific detention facilities, in my opinion.
Yes,
It doesn't,
inhumane.
right, right. It does not mean, if you're concerned about this, does not mean you're also not concerned about people suffering. It's not a zero sum game. So,
Thank you for saying that because I think a lot of us who do support various animal causes, like, well, what about the kids out there? What about
right.
all of that? And they
Right.
don't know that who you support and who you don't, who you give money to or who
Right.
you don't.
Right.
I mean, there's so much horror in the world, as there's so much good in the world
Yeah.
too. But what we're
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
supporting, um, and so much difficulty that
Yeah. Yeah.
you there's a lot to donate to. Um,
Right.
but
Right.
I think we need to do better. We need to do better. We need to do
Yeah.
better with the
Yeah.
way that we treat people, and we need to do better with the way that we treat animals.
Agreed.
And I
Agreed.
think, Patricia, it gets to this point in not even talking about the poor animals that are used for this research, but also in the way that we live with and raise and train our dogs. I mean,
Right.
for us that have a platform and speak out, there's a lot of support, but there are also those who will want to tear down because they don't agree with
Mhm.
you, because they have a
Mhm.
very different idea of what is cruel or not, and they try and do what they can to discredit, and I that's devastating. I mean,
Yeah.
surely we should
Yeah.
be at a point, right,
Yeah.
where we're treating
Right.
all of our dogs while we're raising and teaching them with respect, and we're putting their well-being and welfare first. Surely we
And
shouldn't we be at that point now where it shouldn't even be
wouldn't
a
you
discussion?
think? Wouldn't you think? And that's another sort of side effect of this novel, a way to me, that again, it's not at all why I wrote it, but a lot of people who do not live in the world that you and I live in and that your listeners live in, they love mysteries, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that's been happening, it's so gratifying, is that because I write, I I can't I'm struggling to say it the right way. I can't stop the flow of the narrative, right? I can't spend 4 pages on exactly how to counter condition a
No,
dog,
no,
right?
no.
But it's really clear from Maddie's behavior that she knows the science behind influence behavior. She knows the power of positive reinforcement. She knows the negatives of punishment, the way a lot of people think of it. And so I've had interviews with journalists, and I have had interviews with people who are not in the dog world who are like, "Oh, I didn't know a wagging tail wasn't always a happy dog. I had no
Mm,
idea that was true."
mm,
So one of the things that's really gratifying is all of my work and much of yours has been about improving relationships between people and dogs
yeah,
from both directions, right? And helping both species, We humans wanna help our dogs and often don't know how, and the dogs are like, "Well, living with aliens who, were like idiots," at the time, right?
yeah.
But so by writing a mystery that has a lot of dogs in it, but not so much that it would sort of put people off who are not in the dog world, it's another way, just um another venue, if you will, that sort of continues what you and I have been doing all of our professional life, which is to try and improve the relationship between people and dogs.
And your protagonist, in a way, to me, is she is compassionate, she is courageous, and she fights. And that kind of you are that person. You fight for what
Uh,
is right. You are courageous. You are
mm.
compassionate. And, my husband and I, we're still very much involved in the theater world. We know a lot
Oh,
of
I love it.
people that are
Mm.
um, at the top of their game, right? They
Yeah,
wrote
yeah.
Hamilton, or
Oh
they
my god.
orchestrated,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Wow.
um, and they are the change makers. They're
Mm,
literally through their music, through their writing, they are influencing not just adults, they're influencing children, they're helping children learn about
right,
American history,
right.
about,
Yes,
through
yeah.
Hamilton, they're through Wicked, through Dear Evan Hansen, all of these incredible musicals that
Right,
are literally
right.
changing people's lives, helping people
Yes.
learn, and
Yes.
allowing people to escape a little bit. These are the change makers in that world.
Mhm,
You are the
mhm.
change maker. We were like, it's wonderful to know these people because you spend an evening with these people, you are enriched, you are fulfilled. You're like, my gosh, I'm surrounded by genius. And
Well, I'm so rudely interrupting you. It's just so rude of me, but I have to stop you because we are the change makers. You and I are the change makers, and everybody listening. We
well,
all.
that's what I want to say
Oh,
is
well,
because
there you go,
we
girl.
carried on having this conversation and we moved towards dogs of like, these are the change makers. Yes, I'm a change maker. You are a change maker.
Mhm.
But our students, VSA, that go through VS,
Right,
they come out
right.
and they build their businesses. They're the change makers in their communities. And
That's
they go
right.
on social
That's
media
right.
and they get then they're change making that the web kind of grows. I'm like, we are surrounded by that genius. Isn't that amazing?
Right, right. And it is, you know, somebody said, when we were talking about the world and bemoaning, the
Political
shit show,
situation. Yeah,
basically.
the shit show,
If
yes.
if I can use that term.
Oh, yes, 100%.
The
Yes.
shit show that
Mhm.
is much of the world right now is they said, "Art will save us." Is and so much of that is true, and I've always seen behaviors and trainers as dog training, I've always said is a science, um, and a sport and an art.
Yep,
You know,
truly.
your work and the work of so many people listening to this and some of mine, I of course hope it's it's using the science and, using our skill to communicate. Just as you said, people have been through your programs and then created classes and are spreading the word. Um, we that is what truly changes the world. And that is our, the world changes its perspective, things get better, if they're better, then they get worse, right? And we're sort of in a weird place right now, but we still have the power to
We do.
bring things to where we think they ought to be for our sake and for the sake of the animals we love.
And like in your book, it takes courage. And
Yeah,
so
it does.
I want to applaud the courage of everyone who is in this profession that has
Yeah,
said, no, 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 I'm going to teach people and dogs with respect and without the use of intimidation. I'm going to do this.
right.
And so I want to say thank you to everybody who has that courage. And thank you, Patricia, for having the courage that you have had, that you've spoken so eloquently about and written so eloquently about. And now in your new book, Away to Me, your first fiction book, um, are still exploring and showing and demonstrating that power of that courage in every single person, especially Maddie.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you
thank
for
you.
having me.
I'm so pleased that you took the time. Really appreciate it. And the book is sold. I definitely know it's sold by some big retailers. I don't want to mention them on here, but you can get the book really anywhere, can't you?
Yeah, yeah, anywhere you want, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and a joy, and, joy is just let's just le I just wanna leave you with joy because you bring so much joy into the world, and we all need it, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, guys, I do step up and be courageous. And even if that does just mean calling a representative, please do that. We've all got a voice. And you don't have to be the writer of Hamilton. And you don't have to, be the very top of your craft. You don't need to write a book. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to have truth and to be a good person and to have that courage to step up and say, no, this is wrong and we're going to change. And change isn't easy. Change can be really uncomfortable. But without our voices, there is no change. So be the change you want to see. I always think that that's a great quote. Patricia McConnell, thank you so
Right.
much for joining me. And thank you, listeners, for spending your time listening to this podcast. I hope you take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again on another podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together, positively.
Are you overwhelmed by the world of professional dog training? We get it. There are so many different voices competing for the hearts and minds of people like you who just want the best for dogs and the people who love them. The good news is we're living in a golden age of understanding about not just how dogs think, feel, and learn, but also the importance of exploring and respecting the life experience and overall wellness of these amazing animals. But it can be tough keeping up with and making sense of all the labels: force-free, balanced, positive. And even when you identify the type of training that resonates naturally with you, people are telling you that positive training alone isn't enough. At VSA, we understand how hard it can be to navigate this world. And we're also at the forefront of rethinking what it means to be a professional in the pet industry working with dog behavior. And spoiler alert, it's about much more than just teaching dogs to do or stop doing something. So we'll make it simple. If you're looking to cut through the noise and focus on building or nurturing a career dedicated to serving the best interests of dogs and the people who love them, come talk to us at the Victoria Stilwell Academy. We have live and online courses designed for people at every step of their professional dog training journey, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Visit us when you're ready at vsdta.com. Once again, that's vsdta.com. We're here to support you no matter your background,
and we'd be honored to share your journey with you. And now, back to the podcast.